Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us. And welcome once again to Thursday's teissTalk. It's the highlight of your week. And not only that, it's a day off tomorrow for most of us in the UK. So this is just the perfect way to round off your day. As always, we've got a cracking show for you where AI-driven threat detection can streamline your SOC. So yes, we're still talking about AI, but let's face it, everybody's talking about AI. A couple of housekeeping rules as usual. The best question, the most interesting question, or the question that makes us laugh or makes us the most uneasy will win, or the sender of said question will win a teissTalk mug, a much coveted teissTalk mug. The only other announcement is one of the many perils, as we know, of working from home is that when you're on a call, you'll always get a delivery. Now, I have got a delivery scheduled in the next 45 minutes, so we know it's going to happen during this session. So if anybody out there hears my doorbell and can tell me I've got a package arriving, they will win a teissTalk mug. Let me put it that way. So way of doing audience participation, I guess. Right, so let's move on, shall we? And can I invite onto the stage Mike, Matt, Kiaresh, and Dan? Hello, Mike. Hi, welcome back. Good to have you back on. And hello, who's that has just come on? Hello, Dan.
Hello and good afternoon, Tom. And I will point out that I found out yesterday that actually not every country in Europe has got a bank holiday tomorrow. So we need to be cognizant of those poor individuals.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But you know, we won't make any mention of the fact that us in the UK have got a day off tomorrow. This will be the last mention of our day off tomorrow. Okay, and hello. Who's it we've got? Mike. Hello, Mike. No, said hello to Mike. Sorry. Hello, Matt, even.
Hello, how's it going?
Yeah, very good. And finally, hello, Kiaresh. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How about you?
Excellent, excellent. Only one misstep so far, so we're doing all right. So let's move straight on to the news item. Now, this is a news item which, well, everybody's kind of heard of, and actually, I think it's this country's turn this week as well. So the headline is US and UK unveil sanctions against Chinese state-backed hackers over alleged malicious attacks. So let's face it, it's either Russia, North Korea, or China. So, you know, next week we'll have a headline about Russia and the week after about North Korea, and then it's back to China again. But this one was probably made more prominent by the fact that the UK government has made a bit of a bit more noise about it, and the fact that members of parliament have been attacked, etc. But really, this should not come as any surprise to anybody, certainly on this panel, right, that there are Chinese state-backed malicious attacks against the UK.
No surprise whatsoever.
Also, it's not only UK, I think it's everywhere.
Sorry, go on, Kiara. What were you going to say?
I said it's probably not only UK, probably some other country too. So
exactly. I mean, these attacks are constant, right?
I mean, we could be a little bit contentious and say, I'm not sure that the United Kingdom and the United States don't hack anyone, do they?
Well, I mean, that probably is the biggest bone of contention, is that actually we'd be surprised if there weren't any state-backed attacks, or at the very least probes by any major country around the world.
I think the thing with the article as well is when we're looking at it, it's to me it's more of a bigger geopolitical piece. I think the cyber espionage and the cyber hacking is the headline, and kind of, okay, Chinese hackers are targeting us. However, I think it's just that bigger geopolitical piece at the moment where it was a mechanism to implement sanctions and sort of take a stance in that bigger piece of the game. But it's a sort of, it's quite a nice way of them bundling it up.
So what you're saying is it's a clickbait title, right? So it's what gets us interested in it. And you're right, there is this sort of, seems to be more of a formal move towards calling people out. And that of course, and calling nations out. And that, of course, brings us on to attribution. Are we absolutely sure that in these instances they are definitely coming from China? I mean, attribution's difficult.
Yeah, I think.
I think
I
there's-
mean, I was
Go on,
just
Dan.
going to say, I think attribution, certainly in the digital world, I think it's very, very difficult to do. I mean, you would like to think that if the NCSE, bodies such as the NCSE and so forth are reporting this information, then they have done their due diligence and that there is sufficient evidence to back this up. Because, if this was let's say it was a non-cyber crime, right? And here in the UK, obviously, you need there is a certain amount of evidence, whether it's on the balance of probabilities or beyond reasonable doubt, that something has been committed. You'd like to think that it's similar here, but actually, when these types of articles and even the information that's actually put out by official bodies, there tends to be very little technical detail as to how they found this stuff out in the first place. But I understand that, and I get why they don't put that in there, because a lot of it's government secret information. I think that the best and the reason, and actually one of the reasons why they do this, is just to bring this kind of discussion to the forefront of people's minds. That's what I think, because highlighting individual names, right? So the name of this individual in China, is that, we don't even know, could that be a real person? I mean, presumably it is. Like I said before, we're working on the basis that they're giving us true information and they've done their due diligence there. But I think that the best that they're going to achieve is actually bringing the topic to the forefront, and therefore actually bringing the topic of cybersecurity more to the forefront of boards of organizations.
So it's the equivalent of us finding some footprints in the flower beds under the window with, made in China imprinted backwards on the flower bed. But actually the police talk...
Sounds about right.
But actually it's about the... It's not specifically about that specific crime. It's about the general subject of, you need to lock your doors and windows. You need to be doing this. We need, as an industry, to step up the game, which I think is a really it's a smart way of doing this.
I think, again, with the attribution piece and identifying individuals, this is nothing new. It's been happening for decades. We've had these people who have had arrest warrants put out for cyber crimes against the US and the UK. And it's a hollow statement, because all these individuals just don't travel to the UK or the US, and there's no retribution. It's this sort of big thing about, oh well, they're going to get arrested if they're not going to get arrested, and it's almost meaningless. It's just to make that point and go, okay, here's what we can show you.
I think I'm going to cover, from Tom's point, is like, does this person really exist? Are they just like, here's a person that we think? And and I read that article, and and I think I'd use the word, it's a shock headline. US, it sanctions China. Actually, it's just done 2 companies, and then and I think there's another article that sort of like backs it off as well, about Parliament, MPs' email accounts being phished, and again, it all starts from there. And of course, that then leads to trying to put it into context and say, oh yeah, an MP's email account was compromised. Well, was this their corporate email account or their MP government email account, or was it their personal email account? I don't know.
And was it just impersonation rather than an actual takeover?
I think ultimately everything, once you put in, and again, as a security professionals, we have to put things into context.
So I want to come back to Dan's point about, it's not necessarily about the headline, it's about the underlying story, etc. But are we not also in a position where we're making people jump at shadows? I mean, the most recent thing is the cargo, the container ship that crashed into the bridge in the US, and the number of sudden maritime security experts that have come to the fore on LinkedIn claiming it's a cyber attack is quite impressive. And so it's almost like when anything happens now, cyber attack. We run the risk of being very knee-jerk in our responses to these sorts of things if we're not careful.
It was the same with the outages in the major supermarkets the previous couple of weeks. Everyone's speculating that it's hacking and ransomware, and it was an IT issue. But as soon as there's a computer involved, there has to be a bigger meaning.
Cyber, that's right. That was the day when the UK nearly descended into chaos because Greg's closed.
You're not talking about when there was a toilet paper shortage. You remember that?
That was COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was COVID. That's when you had to line up for 6 days to get into Tesco in the morning.
Oh, that was just yeah. Yeah,
All
I
right,
remember the toilet paper.
Definitely, we picked up on COVID. It's now time to move on without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get on to our panel proper. Let's talk about the real things here, like AI and socks, and not the kind you get at conferences, but the kind you put in behind glass walls in data centers. So where AI-driven threat detection can streamline your SOC. Now, I mean, we've talked about this a lot on Tice, AI generally, SOCs generally, etc. But I think it's fairly clear that AI, in its current state, is not necessarily AI as we think it is, but it's just very quick and very accurate now compared to before, and so therefore its usage in places like SOCs where you need fast, accurate responses is very useful. So have we reached a tipping point where we are going to get rid of our intern, Dave, our intern from university, because actually it's cheaper just to get an AI?
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so at all.
Great. Tell me why.
I'll tell you. So am I going to pick the... I've got the short story.
That's the deal with the panel show, I ask the questions. You don't just say yes or no.
So it's not like the auditor, like yes or no. Okay.
No,
so,
exactly.
So effectively, if I look at... I mean, I've spent a bit of time, and I've only been in this organisation for less than a year. And, and I actually built out our capability. And I've bought, I've got a couple of analysts in, and just to, we bring in about 1 billion events a month. I could not put my analyst on that. Say, here's a big pot of 1 billion events. Just go and sort through them, go find me the problems. So we have to invest in, and I'm not going to use AI. And I think, we do AI, we use AI, we use machine learning, we use automation. I cannot do this without automation. I mean, if I had to have human beings trying to sort that pot, I think I'd have about 50 to 100 people working 24 by 7. However, I am using automation, and the reason being, it's cost effective, it can sort through it fast, it can filter it down, but I still need that analyst at the end of the day to go, I need to look at this. And that's what so I talk about within my organisation the funnel, where it feeds all the events into the hopper, and as the automation filters it out, we've actually got real events that we need to go and investigate. And I think AI can take a lot of the burden, do the heavy lifting, but still needs a human to look at it just to make sure, is that right?
For me, I think that's where there's some of the misinformation about all of these tools that have artificial intelligence in them. And again, the funnel, and we're using AI to filter them and things. Going back to it could just be fancy regex on the back end that is looking for certain strings and going, here you go, this is something that you need to look at. But because obviously you don't see how all the sort of cogs are turning, all of these labeled solutions that are artificial intelligence, it's likely not. There are obviously some implementations of artificial intelligence, but a lot of it is just machine learning that's been slightly mislabeled, in my opinion.
I think that's his doorbell.
That wasn't me, actually. It wasn't me.
That was my one.
I was hoping to get the cup.
That wasn't me. Quite interesting. Yeah, and I think in our prep call, Mike, you mentioned to say you were cynical would be an overstatement, I think. But there's a certain sense of realism about what AI can do for us, and I think we need to distinguish between marketing and real-term or real-world effects and impacts.
Exactly, and I think even if you're writing your own detection rules that is filtering data to give you the alerts that you want, that's what a lot of these providers are offering. You just don't see the detection rule, and because you haven't written it, they'll call it artificial intelligence. And again, they might have some machine learning or something developing these rules based on a sort of a core data set. But I still don't think we're at that point where a 0-day vulnerability comes out and your artificial intelligence security program sits there and works it out and develops these detections on the fly. I've not seen that yet anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually going to add on to this because I mean, without actually trying to name names, we're in a certain American cloud platform, and we use their, it's Sentinel. We use Sentinel, and one of the things I have in there Fusion is the AI. I've turned it off because every time it fires an alert, it's wrong. It's like gathered a whole bunch of information, and it fires an alert saying, "Here, I've got this," and it's like, yeah, but that alert is wrong. You've added Fred, Ginger, whatever, and made 42. You know, that it just brought a load of things together and comes up with nonsense. So we just turned it off.
And Sentinel is one of the market leaders as well. It's a good product.
It's brilliant. I mean, we develop our own because it's all based on KQL. But I mean, the key thing is that Fusion. This is supposed to be the AI. And it's like every time you turn it on, it's like, oh, God. You know, it's like, oh, you got major alert. And you look at it and go, well, actually, that guy failed to log in. John's trying to do something on the network. And it's all pulled it together and, cobbled it together and gone, hey, look, I found a big problem. So, so I think that comes down to, do I trust AI or machine learning? No. I still want a little bit of oversight with a human to actually do a sanity check.
So, Kiarash, I see you're in the startup space. Now, either your startup is called Stealth or it's Stealth Startup, you can't talk about it. I'm never sure with these things. But, presumably AI is got to be somewhere in the roadmap, right? It's got to be part. I doubt there's any technology product out there that's not looking at AI in the short to medium term. I mean, it's a technology we can't avoid, is it, Kiarash?
Yeah, I think in the short term and long term is something you have to consider when you in cyberspace, you want to launch a startup or even you want to buy tools. But you have to be realistic. So what you expect from the AI, so it's going to replace all your workforce, or it's going to detect 0-day or app for you from the day one. So I think it's absurd to think like that. So, but in the long run, so the more they are get advanced and the machine learning and also algorithm and the model they use getting better, so you can expect more. But in the short term or mid-term, so you don't get much. But it can help human side to make decisions. So it can with generative AI, so it can leverage to translate all these logs or all the alerts and noise for you to reduce it to a couple of which you need to take care on that day. So Matt say they have billions, so probably they have 100,000, couple of 100,000 a day. So and if you human eye, so you cannot be that fast to recognize which one is false positive or which one you should dig deeper. But with help of AI, so might be. So probably you can use it to tag your assets. So which one is your most critical assets, so which one you need to consider it first. So and with that, so it can help you to improve your daily routine for your SOC team. And also the first thing that every SOC I think is fighting is alert fatigue. So I think it's the amount of log they're dealing with and the noises. So that could be the first thing. So, but it's gonna, you should not expect from the day tomorrow when you have an AI tool, you have zero false positives. So it's not gonna happen. So it take a while because this algorithm and this model been trained based on a sample model. So it's not based on your company. So, and that's the issue with all the AI models. So because this sample model or this trained data is not to represent the entire sector or whole the cyberspace. That's why, so depends on your company profile. So you could leverage it or it could cause you more issue or trouble over short term or long term. So that's my take. And to be exact, that was one of my issues. That's why I launched my own startup. So I'm talking to my story. And that was the issue I had. So I had lots of these tools and they popping alert from every corner of the screen and say there is something you need to take care of. But at the end, so it's everyone says, there was human side. So someone need to look and say, okay, this is like a false positive, or we need to raise this as a like P1 incident, P2 incident, or need to like talk to other team. That's how like you should see the AI. So it's like complement tool at the moment. So and it's not gonna be more than that, at least for next maybe couple of years or decades. So that's my take at least.
And I think one of the key points you raised there is speed, right? I mean, it's it's closing that gap between sheer volume of alerts and the number of people, a number of bodies that we can throw at this. So and Dan, but coming from an AI vendor as such, this is something that only AI can do in reality is to plug that gap in any sort of meaningful and cost-effective way.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's a data problem, right? And then what I think the AI is good for, and like I said yesterday, we're not talking about AI like in Terminator 2, Skynet and
not yet.
The machines are about to go to war with us yet, right? I think what it's really, really good at is summarizing very, very, very large amounts of data into very, very, very small amounts of data. And this is the reason why I don't think it's going to replace people anytime soon, is because you still need someone to consume that output. And it's really an augmentation of what someone does. And I think that the reason why you need AI to summarize that data now is just because of the amount of data being generated now, even compared to 10 or 20 years ago, is significantly more today than what it was, right? Yeah. So, and specifically, I'm talking about just the amount of log data that is generated, specifically in cloud environments as well, right? It's very voluminous, right? So the only way you can detect some kind of cyber intrusion, in my opinion, is through the effective application of machine learning, which is actually a subset of AI. But then, like I said, it's really up to a person, a human, to be able to consume that effectively, right? So, I think that's effectively where we're at. Now, I think we'd be remiss not to say that AI, just as a whole, right, even outside of security, is not going to change things and change people's jobs. I think that generative AI, just in general, outside of security, is probably going to change some roles, right? Just the way it summarizes data and can interpret, text and stuff like that. But I think in security, there's just so many vagaries. There's so many, so many log types, so many devices that you're after, so many attack methods and attack mechanisms that you really need some kind of AI to filter the vast amount of data down into a very, very small subset that can be easily consumed by a person. Now, the challenge, and one of the big problems, as you guys hinted on, is actually the alert fatigue. So I think you need to strike a very, very fine balance between making sure you've got adequate detection coverage, because if there's some kind of cyber intrusion, you want to know about the intrusion. You might not necessarily need to know about every single step straight away as an alert, right? But you want sufficient alerts across the sequence of the attack to tell you that there is an attack happening. But that needs to be very, very carefully counterbalanced by the clarity, what we call the clarity of the signal, to make sure that you're not overloaded. Because you can have a detection, right? And this is the problem with SIMs. You can have a detection for every single step along the attack kill chain. But if it triggers 400 times a day or 1,000 times a day or whatever, 10,000 times a day in normal production environment, then it's very limited. The usefulness is very limited. So it's a very fine balance.
It becomes normalized.
Sorry, go on.
It becomes normalized, effectively. That's the background noise. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And I think, so every single, attack may have 100, 1,000, individual events. What's needed is the thing that will string those 100,000 events together and say, here's an attack and here's how it happened, without going step 1 of 1,000, step 2 of 1,000, etc. It's that summary thing, which we've seen with large language models. They can, is very good at summarizing and things like that. So the other thing, and we found this with AI generally, is that it tends to run away with us. It tends to sort of, we've talked about AI hallucinating, for instance. We've talked about AI models being poisoned in previous teissTalks, etc. When it comes to things like SOCs, we've got to be very careful, especially if we're in a regulated environment or any kind of certificated environment, that we are compliant effectively, that we are meeting compliance standards. And AI may not be the, well, I'm sure it can be trained, but that's going to be quite difficult to ensure it plays within the guardrails, for want of a better term. Has anybody come across those kinds of implications of AI actually going beyond what it was designed to do? And I don't mean that in a Skynet way.
Well, I think that's when ChatGPT became as prevalent over the past 12 months, and there was all sorts of stories in the news about developers putting confidential source code onto ChatGPT because they couldn't debug it, so they just ask the robot, and without thinking about it, they've then given confidential company data to something that is then going to spit it out if the right question's asked, essentially. So I think it's that weird that weird state where if you do need it to use it, you have to give it enough information to provide usefulness to yourself, but also not enough information that it could not have a knock-on effect to your sort of obviously operation of the business. In terms of if it's a bit of confidential code or sort of intellectual property, well, yeah, we don't want to be sharing that with anyone and training AI models with it.
Yeah, and of course the challenge is, in order to get the most effective elements of AI, you need the largest possible model with the largest number of inputs potentially. That means, potentially going outside of your four walls, which is challenging when it comes to those compliance standards. And as you say, you're uploading of your own data onto public areas. So there's got to be a balance there somehow, surely.
I think there are some providers, I'm sure, that are offering co-pilots for certain features that, whilst it learns on your data, they've trained the model, but any data you input into it, it's as far as they're telling you, it's contained to your sort of instance, I suppose. Right. I can see that as being a use case. But again, if you're having to train a generic model to just sort of tailor towards your organization, that's not going to be an easy step in the first place, and it's going to take quite a bit of time to get out of the hallucinations and to get it to the point where it understands how your environment runs as opposed to how it's been trained to understand.
Yeah, so the training set.
Oh, sorry, go on.
The training set is very critical when it comes to machine learning model, right? So I think that on my honest opinion, I think that with what we're talking about here is some privacy concerns. Well, privacy and regulatory concerns with regards to the way that machine learning algorithms and models operate, right? And I think that the training set certainly plays a big part of that. And maybe as we move forward, in order for more regulated industries, maybe the training set needs to be made available, right, in certain circumstances, if we want to provide some level of guarantee of what it's actually doing. Because I think the challenge with AI and ML and the skepticism that we all had about it back in 2016, 2017 is the fact that, and it still is largely viewed as a black box. It takes data in and it puts data out, and what it actually does under the hood is often hidden. Right.
Yeah.
I think that ChatGPT has legitimized the use of AI quite significantly because people can see a tangible result there, but we've still got that challenge. And I think that is something that the industry will probably, will have to come to terms with over time.
Well, I think ChatGPT has commoditized it as well. I think it's quite literally in people's homes now. Microsoft Copilot is, off the back of ChatGPT, is now literally a part of every Edge browser and is available through every browser. So I think the key element there is commoditized. So it's almost like everybody knows about it. We have to be, we almost have to be using this to stay ahead of the game of our competitors or even our colleagues.
Yeah, my school kids definitely know about ChatGPT. You know, it can give
They
them.
do.
If you give them it can do a fair amount of homework, right? If you let them.
I think when you talk about and with ChatGPT, and I know there are ways of actually subverting ChatGPT by telling it to actually you can actually get it to write some quite interesting malicious stuff if you ask it the right questions. And so one of the things I look at, and I'm probably going to take this in a complete tangent, is that we talk about all the good use cases for the AI. I get the feeling at some stage we are going to be faced with the bad cases, where the nefarious actors are going to start leveraging AI to attack us at speed, and basically the AI is going to learn as it tries to probe and infiltrate our systems. That's it's not Skynet, but it's getting there.
So basically, as the criminals build their own models that will allow them to do the nefarious act. So you heard it here first, folks. Matt's prediction is it's only going to get worse.
Yeah, thank you.
There was a pen testing GPT model trained and released fairly recently, and again, it feels like you're using ChatGPT, but it will tell you offensive security techniques, which is a little bit it's behind more of a padded sort of wall with GPT. I mean, there's ways to circumvent it. If you tell them, I'm a security researcher, I need to do this, it'll happily spit out any answer you want because you've told them you're a good guy. So they must. So you've obviously got no malicious intent, and I think that's where it's the commercialization.
It's camera, you are wearing a white hat.
Yeah.
Exactly, and I think as things become more commercialized, I think that's where the risks start to run because you've got this. As soon as there's money in any space, everyone's going to start plowing into AI is going to make money, and obviously there's going to be companies doing it really well in a controlled manner, and there's going to be companies doing it just to turn that profit and not have really much regard for the integrity of the data or the hallucinations that they're spitting out and things like that.
I mean, hallucinations are quite good. I mean, there was a good one last year about the airline lawyer who actually used ChatGPT to create some case law.
Oh yeah, and it just completely made it up. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Pretty much.
Maybe we'll, our socks are going to start generating, false positives just to keep us on our toes. Who knows? Hendrik has been very patient in the questions. His question is, what if the AI-driven threat detection misleads your SOC, underestimating risk threat severity, or consistently overestimating? Now, we talk about we touched on this earlier that actually it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to get the bulk of it out of the way. But how do you know? And in fact, Matt, you mentioned about this. How do you know? So how do you know if it underestimates or overestimates, apart from finding out the hard way?
I think overestimating, and this is from my experience, overestimate is easy to spot. Like I said, it's grabbed a whole bunch of stuff together and added 2 + 2 made 46. Well, that was easy to spot. It's got all this here. That's definitely. If it was to underestimate it, I think that would be a lot harder.
Control testing, I think. If you're running some kind of control testing, you should identify that it's not raising an alert of sufficient severity, or that the alerts are not being triggered at all. To me, that's probably the most practical way of doing it. Control testing in and by itself is actually quite difficult to do. Maybe you other guys have more experience in that, running it in production, but from what I've seen, it's one of these things. I mean, we had to develop a bespoke analytics tool for something, and again, it's creating how can I create that event? And there are ways of doing it. I mean, we're looking at antivirus within a container within a storage. It's like, okay, so basically we create the analytics rule and then we say, okay, let's test it with a bunch of files, documents, put some ICAR file in there as well, see if that detects it. And you want to I want to make sure that there's no false positive. I want to make sure that there's an alert. But, not every rule can be tested. It's just like
But again, it comes, especially when you've got an AI one, it's like, well, actually, because it takes it all together, go, how can I try and trigger that alert to prove it works? It does get
red team is what I would say. Either a simulated red team or even an external red team. But there's a cost associated with that.
Yes.
But there's, I mean, it's analogous. Sorry, go on.
The difficulty with doing like a red team pen test is, and again, it's no different to when you're testing an EDR solution or anything like that. When you're going and trying to make noise with it. So you go in, you'll do quite a noisy port scan. You'll start probing ports that have and you get the detections that you're looking for because that's part of your testing, your sort of control testing. I think in the sort of real world scenario, the bad guys aren't coming in, smashing the door down and trying everything. I mean, obviously some are, but I think it's quite hard to, I suppose, tone back your testing to the point of a sort of, again, if you've got a full scale red team engagement and you've given them sort of carte blanche to do it as well as they can, it could be a good use case. But I think it's that control test is sort of, you want to make the noise and you want to see the detection. So if you do it sort of too well and you don't, then you've not got that value, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the analogy I normally use with my guys is, we can detect the louder noises, i.e., those DDoSes, those front door smashes. Where what worries me is like the cat burglar stealth. It's that one that goes very slowly, very slowly. Can I catch them? And that's the one I'm interested in.
I was going to say it's analogous to the Chaos Monkey pioneered by Netflix in the fact that there's something going around randomly breaking stuff. You could have something randomly going around trying to, inflict some kind of damage, or trying to attack. But if you can match those pairs up, as it were, you've got your controls there. But again, could be expensive, could be deleterious, and who knows what's, you could have AI versus AI trying to outwit each other.
That'd be good, actually. Red team AI, blue team AI. Go fight.
Actually, that there is a body of research, and it's still a fairly new area. And it's more or less what you're talking about there, Matt. And it's actually called generative adversarial networks, right? Which is referring to adversarial AI. And the kind of concept of it is that you've got some kind of detector which is based on AI. So let's think about a scenario. This is a bit of a thought exercise, right?
Yeah.
For Thursday afternoon. So let's say you've got an AI-based detection that is looking for something like data exfiltration.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be trained based on the amount of data that exits that host, right? Roughly, and it would trigger when more than usual amounts is sent from that host compared to what is seen in the past, and also the host peers and a few other factors as well, right? So what a generative AI, generative adversarial network simulation would do, it would have another model that would constantly be testing it. And what it would do is it would look for the smallest or the most amount of data which could be sent over a given time period, which would then not trigger the detection. So the goal is to learn what the learning is of the good AI. Do you see what I mean? Right. So the bad AI is learning what the good AI knows, right? And then just actually, in the case of data exfiltration, it'll be sending data that is just slightly under, right? So this is a new area of research, and I think there's practicalities there, and I don't think it's something that attackers can easily implement, right? But it could be something. You never know what's going to happen in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So I think what I'm hearing from that is, in order to stop Mike being quite so sort of down on AI, is just to double up on the amount of AI.
Absolutely.
And that will bring him around to it. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Actually, we could. I mean, Tom, just for you. I mean, maybe they could get an AI to do the teissTalk.
Maybe he is AI.
They haven't already.
He could be AI.
I'm just saying, even AI gets deliveries,
Yeah.
But the points you just made or points you're just talking there about red team and blue team, Hendrik has called out. I'm not going to read it out because it's as much a comment as a question, but it's certainly well stated about actually trying to train these models in the right way and in a way that they are going to be as successful as possible. So I think, if just very quickly, we are coming up on the last couple of minutes here. So we talk about, investments in security. Is AI 2024's security investment recommendation of the year of some description? Is this now the year that the average CISO should be looking at AI and going, I really need to get some of that?
Oh, I mean, okay. I'd say no, depends on the maturity of the organisation. I think, to be honest, the investment should be do the basics.
As always, right? What we keep saying.
Don't go and buy new tools if you haven't got the basics done.
I had hair when I first heard about doing the basics. I mean, come on.
Oh no, and I think it's that thing. It's like depending on the maturity of an organisation, does AI fit in with your ecosystem? I'm sure it will, but at what stage are you in maturity? But do the back. I mean, my advice always is do the basics first.
Yeah, always. Right, let's wrap it there. I'm going to go around the table. I'm going to give each of you 15 seconds because I'm feeling particularly generous today. 15. I'm going to give each of you 15 seconds to respond to the statement of, or the question of, what is the one thing our audience should do when they get to their desk tomorrow? So let's keep it practical. Let's keep it focused. And Matt, you spoke last, so let's start with you.
I mean, my advice when you get to this tomorrow morning, go grab yourself a coffee.
Okay. Not quite where we were going. Again, he hasn't got the hang of this panel thing, has he? And he's already wasted 10 seconds.
No mug for him.
No.
Yeah, thanks.
He was so close to getting it as well.
Yeah. I mean,
Matt, so come on, all joking aside, what's the one thing you recommend?
I think, one thing, what people should do, and certainly if they got, coverage, make sure you log, if you talk about SOCs, make sure you're basically, again, doing the basics, logging, got your coverage. And I think that's key.
Okay, cool. Kiaresh, over to you.
I would say try to use AI and automation to solve low-hanging fruit. So the one most common thing. So then your team and yourself have more time to develop yourself and also have more time for more important thing like detecting your apt attack if you're under attack by such a threat, or at least you can develop your more skills. So it give you some time back so you can invest in a more important topic. So that's my take at least.
Very good. And Mike?
Mine would be really have a think about if you do need AI, because I don't think it is the silver bullet that it could possibly be. And I think a lot of organizations will have bigger gaps and bigger deficits, but because it's not sort of trendy, a lot of people are getting not misled, but are sort of going down a track of let's throw money at this problem that isn't necessarily a problem, and they're negating sort of, a lot easier things to fix and sort of mitigate.
Excellent. I thought we'd agreed though, Mike, that it's not just, don't get AI, get more AI. But, let's move on from that. And finally to Dan, who I should hasten to add has been one of our best behaved sponsors. Yeah. Absolutely no book selling going on here. But so yes, if you've got tea and biscuits at the moment, you can thank Dan. But Dan, what are your closing words?
Well, I guess now's my opportunity for you to refute your statement. And what I would say is following the advice of the others. If you've got the building blocks in place, you've got the coverage there, right? One of the pieces of advice was to leverage AI to go after the low-hanging fruit, right? If you are in that position, it would be worth you considering looking at Vectra AI, which is a threat detection platform. Okay, connect with me on LinkedIn. Look us up online. Do your due diligence. Happy to answer any questions, but that would be my advice for what you do when you go back on Tuesday morning. I will remind you, not Monday, Tuesday.
Tuesday morning, yes, because we're not going to mention about our day off tomorrow, or Monday for that matter.
Monday, yeah.
Or Monday, yeah.
Unless you're outside the UK.
I think I said it once, but I also think I got away with it. But
you did.
Excellent. So all that remains is to award a mug to actually the only vocal member of the audience, Hendrik. Thank you, congratulations. He also pointed out, as the discussion is quite fair, we may be sure the panel is not. Are we sure that the panel is not an AI replacement? Did you listen to Matt? AI couldn't do that. Come on. So yes, thank you, Hendrik. Thank you, the panel. Thank you, Mike, Matt, Kiaresh, and Dan. Were fantastic conversation. Greatly appreciated. We will be back next week, actually. Gosh, we're having a number in a row. Next week, the 4th of April, we're going to be talking about, once again, how AI can improve your security and compliance programs. Ooh. Now, we touched on compliance today, so let's see where that particular one takes us. That's at 4 p.m. UK time, a week today, how AI can improve your security and compliance programs. So once again, Matt, thank you. Mike,
thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Kiaresh, thank you. And Dan, thank you. And to the audience, thank you all for watching, and stay secure, my friends.